My wife 29F is planning an affair on me 31 meters. She doesn't know I know. Story 1. Before being married, my wife and I texted some S-timey photos and videos to a guy she used to hook up with before she met me. He still had the hots for her, and it was something that we did together to spice up our S-time life. He sent back really nice notes and got really turned on by us, which basically turned her on and made her feel good. This was something that we did together, so we both got benefit. She was a lot more frisky, more confident, and we had amazing S-time. I suppose it turned me on to know that I had something that he wanted, as stupid as that sounds. After that experience, she was very open that he would text randomly, but she never responded. She even showed me the phone to prove that she is honoring our relationship and not doing anything behind my back. Now, fast forward 3 years, and we are married. I approached my wife in October about our S-time life losing passion. My wife is the type of girl where we can talk about these sorts of things and be completely open and honest with one another. She understood and we promised to work on it. Around Halloween time, she mentioned it might be fun to text that same guy Eric. I was game since it worked so well for us last time. We sent him a video pictures and my wife got really turned on and we had amazing S-time. Everyone likes getting attention and to feel attractive, so I get why she had that reaction. I, sometimes, wish I would get noticed more by the opposite S-time. However, this time the texting continued beyond that one day. She was very open and honest with me that they would check in with each other and text a little throughout the day. After this went on for about a week, I confronted her about him and all the texting. She confessed that they had been texting more and that she was really enjoying the conversation and attention from him. I told her that I would prefer her to keep the attention more S-time while sending pictures back and forth opposed to talking about real life things. That I would feel more comfortable if this was purely a S-time thing, and that she wasn't off having an emotional affair. She agreed and reiterated that this guy lives out of the country and that she isn't interested in leaving me for him or jeopardizing our marriage. It's just refreshing to talk to someone new and he makes her feel good. After this period, I noticed that she has been a little weird with her phone. Going in other rooms to text, taking the phone with her in the shower, and really not letting it out of sight. The very next day she sent me 2 very S-timey photos and a video, which was totally out of character. I figured that she probably made them for him and just sent it to me too. When I asked her about it, she said that she made them only for me. That she was just trying to do something nice. I called her bluff and she showed me her phone. Sure enough, the pictures were not there in her text to him. However, I took it one step farther and asked to see her computer, which also shows her texts, and voila, there they were. She lied to me, sent him the photos too, and then deleted the texts off her phone, not realizing copies still exist on her computer. We had a very long talk about boundaries at this point. I told her that if she continues to talk to him, that she needs to be honest with me. That there shouldn't be anything that she says to him that would hurt my feelings or that she would want to hide. She also promised never to ever see him or call him. Just send flirty texts. I explained that if I ever found out that they met or were intimate, I would be devastated and it would be the end to our 2-year marriage. I reiterated that this is something that we used to do together that benefited us both. And now it seems to be single-sided. After this point, I got really suspicious of her since I already caught her in one lie. So, I thought of a plan. I got her old computer out of closet, which still had her Apple ID auto-filled so I could monitor their messages. I would do this when she was not around, and there was no risk to getting caught snooping through her phone or primary computer. I was devastated. They talked about work, her business, my dog, and random stuff. Yes, there was a lot of S-time stuff too. But I was devastated because you could tell she actually has feelings for him. They often reminisce about how much chemistry they had and how the S-time was amazing. She even admitted that she is bummed when she doesn't hear from him. To be fair, she never badmouthed me, our marriage, or said anything negative about me at all. But the real devastation occurred when she asked if he would ever be interested in meeting. She asked him, not the other way around. She even joked that they would have to meet in a very public place because her clothes wouldn't last 5 minutes, To which he replied, you'd be in trouble even in public. Now, 2 months has passed and they have been chatting pretty much every day. They have brought up the meeting several times and hammered out a date December 28th, as he will be in town near where her dad lives. She did mention that they need to go over rules, but no specifics were mentioned. His reply was no panties as rule 1. This entire time, I have been trying to act normal around my wife. Even though I am really hurting on the inside, I am doing my best to keep cool. I even make snide remarks like maybe you should go text your BF and stuff like that. We even had a conversation that I worry that she thinks about him more than me. And that when we are intimate, that she is thinking of him. She said I was acting crazy and that isn't the case at all. That I'd turn her on and that they don't really text much anymore, which is a lie because I read them all and know that they text almost every day. Now that their Rendevous is approaching, I don't know what to do. She has already told me that she plans to take time off work after Christmas. When I pressed the issue, she said that she just wants to spend time with me and have a staycation. I am guessing that she will lie on the 27th or 28th and say that her dad is sick and that she wants to go check on him or something like that. I feel like I need to know the truth. Is she going to meet with him, even though it would violate the boundary we set? Do I hire a PI to investigate and document the encounter? Do I just monitor their texts and see if any exchanges indicate intimacy? If I confront her now, I feel like the truth would haunt me forever. I feel like I have to know if she is a cheater. We have no kids, however we do each own our separate and unrelated businesses. I make much more than her and I have another house in my name from before I met. I don't know if I want to walk away or make it work. I don't think I can forgive her for having a premeditated affair and violating terms we specifically outlined. What if they aren't an it mate and they kept things innocent? Should I still feel violated? TL. Doctor, wife is texting timiding a guy far away because he makes her feel good and timey. She promised it's just flirty texts and that she doesn't want to see him or be with him. I snooped and found that they have a Rendevous set later this month. What do I do? Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, what's with you people? If I knew my wife was about to pull this essay, I'd be telling her about it. There's no way I'd be able to act cool like this. You know damn well she's already planning to cheat. What are you waiting for? His DCK to be inside her? Sit her down and just let her know you know everything. No bullshit. This can't go on anymore. Redditor 2, I feel like I have to know if she is a cheater. You already know. See a lawyer, have her served when she is with him. Redditor 4, for what it's worth, I went through a similar scenario. I found out my wife was texting another guy behind my back, and planning on cheating with him. I called a lawyer, and his take was this: if you want to save your marriage, confront your wife, tell her what you found, that you love her if you actually do, and you that hope she doesn't go through with it, because then your marriage is over. His position was that if you wait until she's done it, your marriage is over for sure. I did that, she need everything, and told me things would get better. She ended up meeting the guy at a different time, and lying about that as well. I verified through emails from that point on. I knew she was going to be dishonest, and took that into account when going through the divorce process with her. In most states, infidelity doesn't affect property division in a meaningful way. You might be able to eke a few extra bucks out, but it won't make a drastic change in how things play out unless you can guilt trip her. My take, she's already planned on cheating, and has been lying to you about it. I think she's done with you, but wants to keep the marriage around as it suits her. Likely, she would stay married until things were solid with this other guy, and then leave. If you can afford it, I would suggest to go about your day on the 28th, and hire a PI to follow her. It may not solve anything, but it may give you peace of mind to know what actually happens. Redditor 5, keep the evidence, and then talk to a lawyer about how to best protect your assets. Take his or her advice. WRT hiring a PI, confrontation, etc. This marriage is already over, and you already know that. Redditor 6, if I confront her now, I feel like the truth would haunt me forever. I feel like I have to know if she is a cheater. You already know, dude. How about you prepare for it so that when she cheats on you on the 28th, you can greet her with divorce papers when she comes back. Also, don't forget to save copies of all the proof. Story 2, I found out that my wife of 28 years can still hurt me. Okay, so this turned out to be a whole lot as words started pouring into my keyboard. I don't blame if you don't want to hear me whine through this whole thing, so here is the gist. TLDR, last night my wife told me in no uncertain terms that she finds me repulsive and I am really struggling with this now. She's done it. I didn't think she could after all these years, but she hurt me again. This one is deep too, the kind of wound that will not heal. It will just sit, festering, in my soul. We met way back in 1994. I was young, only 21, and I had my whole life ahead of me. I'm not going to lie, I've never been a handsome guy. I'm not the sort of guy that the ladies swoon over. That's how it was when I was a kid and didn't date, and that's how I still am to this day. This isn't to say that I'm some sort of ogre, I don't normally think I'm repulsive, I'm just not a hunky type of guy. When we met, she was the most beautiful, amazing woman I had ever known, and she still is. An absolute stunner who, for some reason, decided to talk to me. In retrospect, this was probably a lost bet gone wrong for all I know. Things moved really fast for us and we were living together in no time. Like literally a week or so after we met, I moved into her place. I couldn't believe this was happening. Here she was, this absolute goddess, and she was with me. Not only was she gorgeous, but also smart and funny and just everything I could possibly dream of. And the S-time, well, the S-time was incredible. Even though I was in this relationship, somewhere, in those back rooms in our minds where doubt, anxiety, and fear live, there was a voice. You know you aren't good enough, who knows why she's with you, but you know it won't last. She'll find someone better than you, which would basically be anyone, and this will all be over. She deserves so much better than, well, you. Look at you. You are short and you look like a skeleton. Anyone at all would be better than you. But she didn't. Weeks became months and then years. We got married and even then, the voice would not stop. My self-esteem, which should have been through the roof, would never truly develop past being a kid that everyone made fun of and none of the girls wanted to be seen with. I used to go to summer camp every year and I loved it. It was a blast. One year they had a Sadie Hawkins dance. For those of you unfamiliar with this, it comes from an old comic strip called Lil Abner. There was a character named Sadie Hawkins and she would ask fellas out on dates, which was unheard of at the time. So the function of the Sadie Hawkins dance is that the girls would ask the guys out. I was a young and hopeless romantic and there were plenty of girls I hoped would ask me to go. As it got closer to the dance day, one thing was clear, nobody was going to ask me. I think that was the exact moment when my self-esteem stagnated. It was not long into the relationship that the intimacy part of things just stopped. I mean, in the beginning, it was amazing. I know that this is the case in every relationship and eventually it slows down, but this happened abruptly. One day everything was incredible and the next we barely knew each other as far as intimacy goes. By the time we got married, it was nearly non-existent. Still, I stuck around. Gradually it got even worse and, as of this writing, we haven't done anything more intimate than a peck on the lips for 6 years. That isn't an exaggeration, it's literally been 6 years. As you can imagine, for much of this time, I assumed it was me. She had finally realized that I was not worthy of her affection and the hens had come home to roost or whatever that expression is. She told me that it was her, there were physical issues, and I knew she did indeed have a lot of health issues, so this seemed reasonable. Still, that itch in my mind could never quite be scratched. A part of me continued to wonder, is she just repulsed by me? Fast forward to, hell, probably close to 15 years ago now. I found out she was having an emotional affair with someone on Facebook. Now, to the best of my knowledge, she wasn't seeing him in person. He lived far away. But the conversations I discovered between them were just as bad, maybe worse. She called this guy her soulmate. Do you have any idea how that hit me? A ton of bricks is not enough to describe how terrible this was for me. She apologized, kind of. I told her I needed time and space, so she went to stay with a friend of hers. She would call me every day from her friend's house begging me to take her back. After about a week, I did. We got into a screaming fight on the way home because she was so angry with me for what I did to her. Having her go stay with her friend was a terrible thing to do, I guess. We got home and that was it. The brief apology phase was over. I would ask her over and over, just tell me why. I never got an answer. Eventually, we got into a fight over this again and her true feelings came out. It was my fault that she started talking to this guy like that. You see, at the time I had 2 jobs and worked close to 80 hours a week. I didn't do this because I wanted to, I did it because in our entire relationship she has refused to work or do anything to help us financially. While we don't have kids together, her son, who was 4 when we met, is my son as far as I'm concerned. It's hard to take care of a wife and kid with only one person working, but she didn't care. According to her, it's the man's job to make the money and take care of the family. So I worked 2 full-time jobs, and sometimes a 3rd part-time job, just to try to keep things together. Because I was always at work, she felt neglected and lonely. So she turned to this guy for the attention she felt she was starved for. That's right, in her eyes, her affair was all my fault. I constantly tell her how beautiful and amazing she is. I tell her I love her 100 times a day if I tell her once. It wasn't good enough. The same woman who had for years basically cut me off from any intimate contact, was now telling me that I should have paid more attention to her. Still, I stayed. I love her. That's the insane part. After all she has put me through, I still love her deeply. I can't imagine life without her. There is also the fact that, as I mentioned, she has literally no work history. There is no possible way she could take care of herself if I wasn't here. I know that if I leave, she will literally end up homeless. I don't want that for the woman I love. So I stay. In spite of it all, I stay because I love her. A few years ago, we decided to get our act together. I was no longer the skeleton man I was when we met. I had put on a lot of weight. So had she. It was impacting her self-esteem. Here was this absolute stunner who now viewed herself as ugly. Keep in mind I still tell her daily how gorgeous she is. It doesn't matter. So we started going to the gym. I was running 3x a week and lifting 3x a week. I got in really good shape if I'm being honest. I was taking better care of myself and so was she. Everywhere we would go people would say things like, "You guys are the hippest couple in town." I loved it. I loved knowing that she was on my arm all the time. She didn't. Sometimes she would just make weird comments to me. Once we were at the gym and I did something I was very proud of. I had never been a really strong guy. For the first time in my life I did 100 pounds on the bench press. I know it isn't a lot, but I was super excited about it. I went to where she was in the gym to tell her. Her reply was, "Oh, that's cool. You should come do some sit-ups with me to get rid of your fat gut." It was as if she took me feeling good about myself for one of the rare times that happens as a threat to her. I don't know why, but somehow it started to grate on her badly. This was the beginning of the final downfall. Sometime around October or November of 2016, someone we know told her I was having an affair. I want to be very clear about this. I was not having an affair. I would never do that to her, or to anyone for that matter. There was literally no proof of this affair at all. It didn't matter. Someone told her it was happening and that was it. Since then we have not been intimate at all and we regularly get into fights about this. Yes, 6 years later, after proving my innocence with facts and data at every turn, she still thinks I'm cheating on her. Not just with one person, mind you. Basically with anything that moves. For about 2 years it was bad. Really bad. Screaming fights every day bad. For a while, I honestly thought I might kill myself. At the very least, I seriously considered checking into a hospital. That's how bad my depression and anxiety were. Now all I did was go to work. I would call her the second I got there to let her know I was there. I would call her throughout the day to see how she was. If she called me, I answered the phone no matter what was going on at work. I literally would walk out of meetings just so she wouldn't think I was cheating on her. When it was time to drive home, I would pull up Google Maps, call her and let her know how long it should take, and then I would be home at that time. None of it mattered. She still believed I was cheating. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped running. Hell, I stopped getting regular haircuts. I wasn't showering regularly. A lot of this is due to depression. Some of it was because, in my head, I thought if I showed her that I didn't care how I looked anymore, she would stop thinking I was cheating on her. I have now ballooned up to about 220 pounds. When we met, I weighed 125 pounds. I have nearly doubled in size. All due to a combination of depression and just wanting her to think that nobody would be interested in me. I desperately hoped this would end the constant accusations of my infidelity. It didn't. She would say things like she didn't care that I was having an affair. I told her that I cared. That her thinking I'm that kind of person hurts me deeply. That I am very proud of the fact that we have been together for so long and that I am ever faithful to her. It didn't matter. She continued to believe that I was a cheater and there was literally nothing I could do about it. My depression is worse than it ever has been. Last night, for no reason that I can think of, she started acting weird again. She always acts a certain way right before we end up fighting about my alleged infidelity. I can see it coming a mile away by now. Sure enough, I called her out on it and, as always, she starts in with the gaslighting. I don't know what you're talking about, you're acting crazy, I haven't done anything. These are all the usual statements she will make. We get into it. I said some things I wish I hadn't, I can admit that. I also apologized for those things. At one point in the fight she says to me, "Go duck yourself, nobody else ever would." That was it. The fight ended immediately. It took the wind right out of me. All my fears, insecurities, and just general anxious thoughts had just come pouring out of her mouth. I didn't care about the nobody part. I've made it very clear to her that I have no interest in ducking anyone else. I have even accepted that if I'm going to be with her, not having time is a part of that. And I honestly don't care. There are a million moving parts in a relationship, so if we don't have time, we don't. It would have been nice to be involved in that decision, but, at the end of the day, our relationship means more than time to me. So yes, it wasn't the nobody part that upset me. It was the fact that nobody includes her. The woman who I reassure on a daily basis that she is amazing and incredible and gorgeous. That woman has told me in no uncertain terms that she finds me hideous to be around. I told her that if she cares at all about how that makes me feel, then she should know that it makes me feel like I wish I was dead. She is the only thing that matters to me and, after all this, she has finally validated my worst fear. She thinks I'm disgusting. Her response was that she doesn't care. I went to bed, alone. I hate sleeping without her in bed with me. But there I was. Alone in the dark to wrestle with my worst fear coming to light. As I've always known, I am not good enough for her. The worst part about it is, nothing will ever change. I won't leave her for the reasons mentioned before and she knows it. So this is my life now. Just a walking ATM that is only here to pay the bills. It's now like having a roommate that doesn't offer to help financially in any way. I don't know where to go from here. If you're worried that I might do something stupid, don't be. I won't. I'm just trapped in this mental hell for I guess the rest of my life. I really didn't mean to ramble so much, but once I started putting the words out into reality, everything just sort of came out. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. I'm crying now, in tears from this cathartic exercise, I suppose. I hope it will get better. I know it will never get better.